with the ATT&CKcon couch, and we have with us Olaf and Johnny, who just got done presenting on the insight into data sources. So thank you guys so much for your talk. I know how much work it goes into doing one of these talks. I really liked how you guys scoped everything down. There's just those 5 techniques. That was really helpful because I think sometimes when you get into these talks, it's like, well, everything's important, but then nothing's important. So you can't really get into anything. So I really love that. Just excellent, excellent talk. So really quick, there is a question in Slack that I wanted to bring up just to start it off. So thank you guys so much for posting your questions in Slack. We really appreciate it. The question is, any tips for being able to reduce the noise for when you're trying to access like process access, I believe. Yeah, reduction of events for when you're trying to access process access.
Yeah, it's definitely a hard problem to solve because I think there's definitely a lot of different avenues you could go. I've seen I'll say this, the majority of organizations when coming to do those like Bitwise operations that I was talking about, the majority of analytic platforms can't actually perform that type of technology yet. So like if you're utilizing the Splunk, you can't necessarily do that. So you have to be very specific on the access mask that you are looking for inside of your data analytic, which can be tough and easily bypassable. I would say for like in a data collection standpoint, there's a couple different ways. So you could either look for the commonalities of different source processes in the target images that they're accessing. So like LSAS, for example, is a highly accessed process. And like SVC host, for example, is typically grabs a handle that quite often. And so I've seen some environments they'll take that out, or they'll take out instances where the access mask is only like a couple of different values, and so they're only looking for those. Those are a couple avenues that some people can take. Yeah.
Nice. Very cool. So I just do want to call out, I really like how you guys during your presentation kind of did this reverse approach where you're like, okay, if I wanted to do this, then what access would I need? And then like going and looking at that access and then asking yourself, okay, like what am I really trying to accomplish if I do, like if I need this access, what am I really trying to accomplish? Like there was that point in there when you were talking about like the logical steps, like the human behind it, that I just really appreciated. And then you also mentioned sub data sources, which I love. So what do you guys think of the talk that Lex gave about the data sources and all the future work that we're going to do on ATT&CK?
Yeah, I'll let you go here and say I'm super stoked about it. I think the mappings that is going to be inside of MITRE is like pretty next level. And I think that's something that like everyone really needs. And then kind of like what I mentioned to Jamie, just like mapping those to like event IDs as well is going to be a huge benefit for the community. So super stoked about that.
Yeah, same for me. I think that it's a thing that has been coming for years, or should have been coming for years, and there's a lot of research being done by a small group in the industry, right? There's a bunch of people that know this by heart, and a lot of people don't. So getting them started by having a certain direction where they actually can do something with it will be super beneficial. I think over time it will probably go even deeper to the most valuable fields within a data source or something like that, I suspect. But this is a great start. I'm stoked to see what Alex and the rest of the team are doing.
So what's your favorite data source in Mac OS?
Ooh, is it very sensitive part?
Oh, the mic's not working.
We're going to have technical difficulties, guys. So sorry. Actually, in the meantime, for those of you that are doing the ATT&CKcon memes, like that flag is still up for grabs. So we'll make the decision at the end of either today or tomorrow, and then we'll be rewarding that flag. So definitely have good memes, like how to use ATT&CK. I think one of my favorites was the face that you get when you realize how many techniques there are on ATT&CK. That was awesome. So, all right, but back to my sneak attack question.
Oh, yeah, the Mac data source. So that's a difficult one because getting it from the host itself, the ESF, or the endpoint security framework, is so vast. It's almost a fire hose. But it's for research, it's amazing. There's so many good stuff that you could be able to detect if there would be a great tool to ingest it. So I'm working a lot with some EDRs. And they haven't really committed to going there. So usually it's like file creation, network events, process creation, process commands, maybe scripts a bit, and then it's there. And that's sadly the fact that we have now and we have to deal with. But yeah, I'm putting some pressure on some of the EDR vendors that I work with, at least, to get more. I know that they're working on it, but it's probably more difficult than I expect it to be. ESF is great, but it's also a little bit weird sometimes because it's so fire hosey that it even drops stuff. So that might also be a problem for them. I don't know, but hopefully this year there will be some great leaps forward. Fingers crossed.
If and could. Those are two big,
Yeah, and it's a
big
weird
words
thing,
in a
right?
statement.
Because most of the industry, I see a MacBook here. I have one in my backpack. There's a lot of people that do security that work on a Mac, whereas it's an okay platform, but it's not as well known as Windows, for instance. What we are trying to defend with our MacBooks, which is kind of weird.
Yeah. So last question, really quick, because we had talked about this some beforehand, and for those that are getting into cybersecurity, me and Johnny were talking earlier, and he's got some really great insight into like the things that he's had to overcome getting into cybersecurity. So I wanted to ask you, like, what are some obstacles you've kind of overcome?
Yeah, I would say I kind of mentioned this to Jamie, but don't be scared, right? So, for anyone that doesn't know me, I've only actually been in industry. I'm coming up on my third year, and I graduated college in 2019 and graduated high school in 2015. When I went when I went into college, I knew nothing about computers, and so coming into the space, it can be very overwhelming, and to pick what you're interested in is hard. But the biggest advice I can give is stay motivated and dive headfirst, and find yourself a good mentor. Actually, it's funny because I was telling Olaf this earlier. He was actually one of the first people I followed on Twitter, and so he's like one of my like original mentors. Matt Graber, Matt Hand, some of my other current mentors, and find those people that you can continuously ask questions to challenge your assumptions and just keep diving hard. And I think the community in general is always excited to learn. So just be excited to learn as well.
I love that. And that's actually a perfect tie-in for you guys, especially with you both presenting here.
Yeah.
So seriously, thank you so much for your presentation. We really appreciate it. And taking this time on the couch to get to talk to the audience.
Oh, no, thank you.
Thank you guys. Awesome. All right. See you guys soon. So our next guest up, which we're super excited for. Olaf told me a nickname. I'm not going to say. So whenever I get nervous, I always
this is funny.
I just say the worst. Like I definitely butcher everyone's name. So how do I properly pronounce your name?
Well, in Dutch we say Gert-Jan Brugging, but it's probably a bit more difficult in English. But you can try it. No.
I have
be on the
way
safe
too
side.
much respect for you.
Be on the safe side. That's cool.
Because there's like I know in Dutch specifically, there's actually like parts of like there's sounds that's not in English at all.
Yeah,
so
that's
there's
true.
Like an attempt to be able to do it because I don't even know how to make that sound.
Yeah.
So like I'm learning Chinese and there's certain sounds in Chinese that like there's no English equivalent to that sound.
And in Dutch we also have a lot of words that are, let's say, letters that are, for example.
Yes.
But we can talk a long time about this.
That's true. All right. So I loved your talk on attack and the evolution. That was a really, really like. I know everyone on the attack team. Like we really try to have this attitude of A, authenticity, and B, like we're here like it's service. Like how can we make this better for you all, right?
That's right.
So it was cool to see like Adam up there and Jamie up there because they're like, yeah, it's true. Like, this is honest. Like, let's be real.
Yeah.
But I also appreciate like your full scope on like how it's been useful, right? Like how it's evolved. Like it's not like nothing is perfect in this world.
Yeah.
And it's constantly evolving, right?
Yeah, I agree. And I also think that this is one of the main things why I thought of this talk was also to address exactly that. There's a lot of people thinking that everybody's using this, and we all think like that. But is that really the case? And I tend to find that that's not always the case.
So I was talking in another interview way back when, and they were telling me that sometimes it's more detrimental to have someone that thinks they know how to apply attack than actually having somebody apply attack in an organization.
No.
And at first I was like, no, that can't be true. But then I like listening to your talk, I was like, that's like, this is a common theme. It's like people that are trying to apply this, but don't necessarily understand it.
Yeah, exactly, and have the expertise to follow through, right? If you start with that's what I also said. Like, it's easy to start doing this because everyone is standardized to it. Chop a tree in the cybersecurity wood, and it falls on something that is mapped to attack.
Yes.
So we adoption is easy, but then using it and then having the right people to actually do that, that is challenging.
So how have you like what are some indicators like between noise? Like but like, oh, that's just someone marketing, versus like, no, no, this is legit. Like I need to pay attention to this.
Yeah, it's very difficult to give a definitive answer, but there's some flags. Let's put it like that. So,
Yeah.
so if you usually see people, don't nuance it correctly, then I think that is sometimes an issue. If they just emphasize the usage of attack, and then I tend to see that people lack lacking that type of nuance, that's a red flag for me. And then I have to pry deeper, and then what you uncover is that people actually don't use it
Mm.
as they should, or maybe just emphasize it, and maybe use marketing nonsense. For example, yeah, we have the attack stamp, but we don't know how the heck we should use it.
So you're like you gave some awesome solutions for that in your talk. And then so I guess you could say like we have like a good chunk of viewers online. Um, is there any like key tips you would take kind of like for like so for you guys at home getting started with this, are there any tips that you would give them?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing is to, and I think I'm repeating what probably the previous speakers have already said. So, one thing I do see is it's easy to start using it, but just use it as is. Use it as the template version, as an standardization part. There's a lot of issues that are revolving around it, and some of the limitations I addressed today.
Mhm.
So do consider these as points of attention for your security program, but using it as is key, and just start using it. But then also, second, make sure that you understand the implications of that, and that you, when you start using it, or act heavily using it, you have to do stuff like feedback, where it relays back into your team. And that is, yeah, that is also one of the main things I wanted to address in my talk, is that I don't think that is happening often, and I think the MITRE team is willing to learn. And yeah, I think that is super awesome. And to give an example, so
Please.
the previous dude in here, Olaf, we actually had some talks. I think a couple of years back. We're trying to hack something, Excel related. We're trying to hack attack into Excel because, well, Excel, right? And then we were like hacking at it, but we were like, why isn't this feature in there?
Mhm.
So we're like going into like, okay, we might need to have that conversation with the MITRE team. We had that conversation, and actually that function got rolled out pretty quickly. So feedback did work. It worked really well, and actually we got something we could actually use. So all happy.
So are you talking about is that the tool that like literally
Yeah,
translates
yeah.
attack into Excel?
The export thingy.
I have
Yeah,
used that myself when
yeah,
I'm trying to do metrics and like coverages. So
yeah. Exactly.
that's where that comes. Thank you.
I
Thank
no,
you.
it wasn't me. So I'm just addressing some of the points of attention. Because I tend to believe that if two people are already wanting it, then I think
Yeah.
maybe more of them need it as well. And it's not about me, but it's about the team that actually built that and prioritized that. And I think, yeah, it's testament to all the people, good people at the MITRE team working on that.
Well, I mean, I think that says a lot, right? Like you're here at ATT&CKcon speaking. Like your presentation just went over the evolution of us, and you've been not just a passive watcher, but like an active participant in trying to apply it. Like there's a lot of tribal and internal knowledge that you get just from being around an industry, let
Yeah,
alone
exactly. Yeah.
embedded in it, right? So like I don't want to be too dismissive of like, well, we thought this would be it was just two of us, but like because the reality is like you guys are kind of the ones that are like lack of a better term, like my army's coming out, like boots on the ground, like you're doing it, like there's a perspective that
Yeah.
only the practitioners will ever be able to have.
I think that's really cool that you touch upon that, guy. I think that the practitioners don't think about that,
Mhm.
and they just think, I found this little thing and it doesn't fit. Eh, eh. And I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, but you can actually have a conversation about that, and people are willing to do something about it. So So again, I also want to take this opportunity to encourage everyone to highlight that, to talk about that. You can connect it with Slack, and I'm not getting paid by MITRE, full disclosure. But I think that emphasis is not happening enough, and that's what I at least wanted to make clear.
I so appreciate that. Checking really quick for any questions. So I am definitely checking for questions inside of Slack. So if you guys have any, please let me know. Let's see. If you have any tips for completing an exercise that is a thought exercise, like how accurate do you think those exercises really are for thought exercises? Yeah, thought exercises.
Yeah, so thought exercises are good, except I tend to work not in thought exercises. I encourage everyone to adopt a sort of like a scenario-based defense concept, and that could be, thinking of the broadest spectrum of what kind of threats is your team dealing with, and working that through. What are more of the, and this may sound like Intel jargon, but I like to think, there's only a couple of things that actually work in your environment, or maybe could be relevant, and you can nuance it greatly, but still having a good understanding of that, and hypothesize that, then you can make a selection. Maybe we should have a team focus our hunts on that. And maybe we should have a team, maybe the Intel team, work a bit through some of these more abstract things and make it into more tangible scenarios. And you see that happening more and more. And you see that happening more and more, people detailing the scenario often. And I tend to have a lot of good responses from my clients that they see that the scenario model works, because that allows them to actually have a conversation with risk management and then say, okay, so we tested this. What is the outcome? Is this actually a risk we need to emphasize on? So having that understanding from a broad spectrum, I know I'm cutting some corners here, but having a broad spectrum and working through tangible scenarios, I think that is key to people going from the adoption to the usage.
I think that's really practical advice. Then can only be born of wisdom and painful experience.
So, painful lessons.
Painful lessons. So hopefully no one else has to go through those lessons.
And I like to see more of those lessons. So I encourage everyone to actually share those lessons as well. The more painful, the better.
Right. Yeah, because then you're like, okay, I'm not alone. Oh. So no, thank you so much for your time,
You're
the
welcome.
Presentation time here. Really, really appreciate all your wisdom that you shared.
Thank you so much, Kat. Have a great day.
Thank you. You too. All right. Next we have up Lindsay and Scott. And I just want to say I love the title of this talk, To the Left of the Boom, prioritizing detections with Intel. I think that is great. Thank you guys. Is she the one that came up with the title?
Titles, so.
I love it. I think it's fantastic. So you guys released this open source tool. Like, I love how you went through everything. So is there a favorite talk that you've had of the day? Like, how is it being here? I know we didn't get much time to talk before this. So
it's really cool. So I thought Selena Larson made some really great points about really knowing your audience, because that's definitely something that my team sees as relevant, all the time. So we are an internal threat intelligence team, and it really is such a different experience writing for, an executive who's reading our reports versus, other threat intel analysts versus the people who really do want to see the IDA screenshots. So I want to see your IDA screenshots. Maybe not everybody does, but would you like?
Sure. So I was going to say Selena's as well. So I'll go with my fallback. I'll say Johnny's and Olaf's talk was pretty amazing. Quite honestly, getting the chance to see them speak in person, that was the first time. They both contributed so much to the community. So that was really exciting for me. But the level of technical expertise that they have, I guess it shows the range of really deep technical conversations and more higher level ones here. So it was awesome to see. Yeah.
I love it. So let me actually go to Slack, because you guys had a lot of questions and some excellent conversation, which I loved. And the downside of doing this live is I haven't had a chance to look at these up, and I'm so sorry.
I'm hoping you skip the one that I'm scared to answer. So we are doing some Intel collection ourselves ahead of time.
I love it.
There's one about threat modeling. Yeah.
Yeah, that is that's a pretty well upvoted one. But again, so I think the thing to remember too with these questions is that we're all human. Not everyone can know everything about everything, right? So the fact that you're here, you're doing a presentation, the amount of work that went into that presentation, and then you're releasing this open source tool, the questions are just questions, right?
Sure thing.
So, so I will say, like, how about this? Have you found any good models for that you found to apply to that tool?
Yeah. So the short answer, the question kind of came around like looking at chains of behaviors and how you would apply threat models to that. And so for that specifically, the short answer is no. And that's why I was scared to answer it. It's an amazing question that has like a ton of angles to it, I think. What I would suggest in a case like that is mostly we're recommending performing threat modeling to surface adversary specific actor groups or malware that are kind of most prominent and targeting certain industries. When you're getting down to the level of looking at specific attack chains, it almost becomes you need to look at that specific instance and dig down into how that adversary is deploying those specific technique implementations. And I guess if there happens to be maybe some overlap with some other techniques within your model, I would start focusing on those techniques and defending against those. But it's really tricky. I'm excited to see more and more focus, definitely at MITRE and just in the industry, on like attack chains and patterns. I think it's a good direction that we're heading. Yeah.
And to kind of add to that a little bit about what Scott said about how are threat actors actually using those techniques. So for example, lolbins, like I don't know if you've seen some of the repositories that show all the art of the possible, but really instead of kind of focusing on writing detections for every single lolbin used in every single way, it's like, what is actually popular? You know, how are people using it for the downloads? And really kind of using that ground truth data to, you know, back your detections out of as we write them. So we're not telling clients to, you know, protect against this theoretical use of the tool. It's like, no, this is what's actually happening, making sure that things are based on fact.
I can see that because like there's only so many ways to download like a payload using PowerShell, and there's like they get reused again and again and again, and it's I could see definitely focusing on those. So yeah, awesome.
I think that's actually a really good example though, because that's kind of my perception as well. And then looking at the tool, I remember seeing PowerShell come up. There were like around 200 detections for that. So some of that was certain detections written in certain languages for specific tools. But I think it demonstrates how many potential implementations there are for certain techniques at the same time. So I do think there's an upper limit, but in some cases it's really, really high as well.
Do you think with the amount of detections that there are, that it kind of creates a little too much noise though?
Absolutely, yeah. And I think that's one of the challenges. So I think it's trying to figure out potentially, and you kind of hit a wall here as well, because, you know, MITRE ATT&CK even only goes to a certain level. Like there's not identifiers for every single procedure that exists. That's a challenge that I don't think anyone really has figured out yet. If you're trying to put in detections for all the specific implementations, it just becomes a huge, massive task. A little pessimistic.
It's for sure. It's like how to solve world hunger. You know, it's like how
to stop PowerShell abuse. Yeah.
Yes, for all of them. So you guys are here. Is there any kind of we were with these amazing online viewers? Is there anything that you kind of want to tell them as far as I'll just give you a softball question. So what are some challenges that you've had in this field, and kind of how have you overcome them? Everything from, I know we talked about earlier with Selena about imposter syndrome. With others, it's been like how to break into the cybersecurity field. And for you all, like how have you all broken into it?
I can start since I have the mic. So those two things were the top ones that we're just going to highlight: breaking into the field and imposter syndrome. I think for breaking into the field, I think it's, and this will relate to imposter syndrome as well, but reminding yourself that end of the day, especially when you're doing analysis or intel analysis, it's about thought processes. And if you are good at problem solving in literally any field, that kind of same concept and just the process that you're using to solve problems can be applied to cyber as well. And, you know, sometimes it's going to be tough to convey on a resume, but reminding yourself that that is real and you have value to add is a big thing.
Sure. So I had a slightly more traditional path in. So I got a computer engineering degree in college and I actually came to MITRE. So I was a software engineer when I started out, but started doing reverse engineering in about 2014 and then moved into malware analysis around 2016. So I really had kind of a very safe opportunity and really project-based opportunities to develop a lot of my cybersecurity skills. So I don't hold any, certifications or anything, but really getting kind of that hands-on experience and like learning by doing really got me into like, wow, I really love reverse engineering. I really enjoy this. I'm really good at it. So now it was something that I could kind of use that as a foundation and begin to kind of grow my other cybersecurity skills, because, you know, as you're aware, it's like that's only one aspect of cyber. So now then moving into more threat intelligence specialty, it's like, okay, well, what are all the other pieces that I need to understand? So then being able to branch out and learn those as well.
Those are amazing answers. Like thought process, 100%. Like that's, I'm like, where do I start? And I like the fact that you're like, you came up from like, my hat is off to you because you RE, and I hate assembly because every time I look at assembly, my brain hurts, and then I have to like go take a break and walk away, and then I get nothing done for the rest of the day. So my hat is off to you on that. So I love the fact that we all have different strengths to play. But I agree, like the thought process and focusing on that, and then also getting the hands-on experience are great ways. And like, I think I love the fact that you both even have such different paths in. And like some people like take certs and that's how they got the technical understanding. And then other people don't have any certs, right? So I really appreciate your diversity and background. So thanks.
Zia is far more technical than I am, but that is one area where I relate to her. I don't have any certifications as well, and not necessarily that I'm proud of that. Like, it's not a knock. I wish I had had more formal experience and training in those regards. But if you are interested in just continuing to ask questions and dig deeper, you definitely can go pretty far in the field for sure. So
I love that. And the fact that you all are here today and speaking at ATT&CKcon is definitely a testament to that. So thank you. I really appreciate it. And thank you for your time and your presentation and coming out on this couch with no preparation at all. So definitely be kind. And so, but yeah, thank you again for everything. So
thanks for having us.
100%. Yes, my honor. So definitely give your best meme for ATT&CKcon. We love having you here. All of this content is for you guys. So for the virtual participants. So we're just super grateful that you're watching, and we hope you have a wonderful rest of the break. And we're looking forward to Matt Malone coming up next.